Am I the asshole? Because I don't want to name my son after my Phil? My husband and I are expecting a baby boy in 3 months. The issue started when my Phil passed away 2 months ago. My husband, who was very close to having split up with Arthur's father shortly after having her second child, who was born with a severe disability, and she was struggled mentally and practically, which meant Arthur's care was falling by the wayside. Our parents stepped in and we all agreed that my husband and I would take custody of him. It was meant to be temporary. But after a year, Gia formally signed over her rights and my husband, Arthur, my daughter and I moved abroad 1.5-hour flight from Gia. Arthur visits his mother in school holidays and Gia comes out to visit us in the summer and at Christmas. Gia has worked very hard to rebuild her life and now has a fiancé and a third child. Over the past year, Arthur has been putting up more of a fight about going to visit Gia. He says he wants to see his friends during holidays and do more sports. He competes in go-karting. He also says he doesn't like going to Gia's because he doesn't have his own space there, has much less freedom, doesn't like the food, activities, etc. I do understand, but at the same time I've always said it's important that he sees his mother. This came up again when I was making plans for half-term and Arthur asked if he could skip his trip to see his mother. He said going to Gia's place just feels like he's being punished for not being our bio child. He said he just wants to stay home like his sister, my daughter. This absolutely broke my heart. I love Arthur just the same as I love my daughter, and the thought he would feel singled out in any way she tore me to pieces. I talked it over with my husband and we decided that we wouldn't force Arthur to go. Gia is furious. She called me all sorts of horrible things. Accused me of pressuring her to give up custody of Arthur. This didn't happen, and stealing her baby again. Not true. She berated me for letting him call me mom, for turning our parents against her, for turning her son into a spoilt brat who looks down on her. Eventually she said if I didn't make him come and visit she would sue me for custody of him. I've spoken to a lawyer who says there is next to no chance that a judge would give custody back to Gia. The parents' mother and Gia's father think I should retain custody of Arthur, but that I should still make sure he is visiting Gia, at least for the next couple of years, as he is too young to realize the impact not having any bond with her will be, and he can decide that when he's older. My husband and I are just trying to do right by Arthur. I don't want him feeling like we don't take his opinion into account. But at the same time I don't want to put him through the stress of a legal battle over all this. And I believe Gia when she said she'll start suing for custody, even if she won't win. So am I the asshole for not making him go? Not the asshole. She signed over her rights, so that will be impossible for her to regain custody. He's basically a teenager and he sees things over at his mom's that he doesn't like. He doesn't have his own space. He probably feels like an outsider, etc. Sit him down and have a serious talk with him. Ask him why. What happens when he goes over there, etc. Get him to go in detail. If doesn't want to go, don't make him. It's up to his mother to fix her bond with your nephew, not him. He's a child. The thing that jumps out at me is he so clearly sees himself as yours. He doesn't want to be sent away. It makes him feel like he isn't your child. I can't imagine how hard that would be. You so clearly love him. I know this isn't useful advice, but congratulations on raising him in such a way that he knows he's yours. I think his needs and wants come above bio-mom. You need to listen to what he's saying to you. That's putting his interests first. Family therapy or individual therapy if you think it could be useful. Sending hugs to you all. Not the asshole. She went and had another kid during the 6 years Arthur's lived with you. I'm sorry Gia was struggling when he was younger. but she was somehow still able to go live a life without him. It also doesn't sound like she's made room for him in her current home. That's not fair to Arthur. Not the asshole. He's your kid now. You are his mom. Yes. Gia might have had her reasons for not being able to care for him before, but if she wants to maintain some relationship with him, she's going to have to be the one making the effort. Ultimately, though, it's his choice on whether he wants any relationship with his biological mother. He can't be forced into it. P.S. Kids tell you exactly what they want and what they're not comfortable with. Maybe try listening and talking to him about the why. It's important you support it. No matter how silly it may seem to you, it's important to him. Not the asshole, but 12 yo is the threshold for kids sliding into their friends' and own life. They no longer just do as they're told. Going to need to find a compromise. This won't get easier. Y'all need to seek a family therapist. You need to 100 follow whatever that little dude wishes are. He's been jerked around enough by having such a fractured situation. Following whatever he wishes is really the only way to allow him to heal. Verbally support him. Tell him repeatedly there are no wrong decisions. That's very important. That's coming from someone that went through similar. Not the asshole. Tell her to get off her ass and come visit her kid. If Arthur doesn't want to go see her for the reasons listed, it would make sense for her to take a trip or two and inconvenience herself for once. Can you imagine how awkward it will be if you force him to go there now? Not the asshole. After the threat of suing for custody, I wouldn't feel comfortable letting Arthur visit alone. What if she refused to send him back? Not the asshole. I saw your replies. You're replying as a devil advocate in all of them. It's clear that you have the best interest of all parties. But someone will get hurt from this. And I'd rather the kid not being that someone. I think the best solution is for Arthur to talk to Gia via a phone or video call. Let them discuss this. With you as a moderator. All of Arthur's reasoning for why he doesn't want to go meet Gia is valid. Let her hear it from Arthur straight. There needs to be a video call. Given the distance with the adults of both households and Arthur, the communication needs to be crystal clear as to why he is choosing not to go. It would be hard and devastating to your relationship with Arthur to force this issue. That said, bringing everything to light calmly and honestly could start the process for change. She relinquished her parental rights, which means he's your son in every sense of the word. Meanwhile, let her come to him in his space. Give Arthur a chance to work though some of his feelings, not the asshole, as he is too young to realize the impact not having any bond with her. Well, he is old enough to realize his mom chose to give him away on the pretense she can't take care of him. Yet she can take care of her younger than him child. Put that on top of feeling singled out if forced to go to her. Stick with the decision your family of 4 made. I get that it won't be easy or very kind to your sister. But choices and decisions have consequences. Your child is more important than your stepsister. Not the asshole. Okay, so after finding out he doesn't have his own room or guest room to retreat in, that his bio mom is a full-time caregiver for a child, is it any wonder he doesn't want to go? Also, he may be pissed at his bio mom for giving him up and then starting a whole new family. I know I might be salty about that. I wouldn't make him go, but I would put him in therapy. I would also let him make video calls to Gia whenever he wants. Not the asshole. Gia can come visit Arthur where he feels comfortable. Isn't that most important? Gia? Arthur is the priority.
Am I the arsehole? For yelling at my mill and causing her to cry when she was trying to protect my kids? What do you guys think? Am I the asshole? Not the asshole. Not sure what protection she was offering. I would have physically moved her out of my way, so she's lucky all you did was yell. Considering you left the kids with her, is she implying it was irresponsible to trust her with their care? Info: what did she think she was protecting your kids from? She was watching them while you went to the wedding, so I'd assume she'd know it was a couple hours away. She wasn't trying to protect your kids, she was actively preventing you from seeing them. I'd be tempted to go low contact because of this. She wouldn't let you see your kids, so now she doesn't get to see her grandkids. She's lucky you didn't call security or go full mama bear. Not the asshole. Not the asshole. Protecting them from what? Mill was being difficult and literally gatekeeping your own children. And I bet my hat that she told her side of the family, her version, and omitted many details to paint you as the villain. Protect your kids from what? Seeing their parents? This is a ridiculous scenario. I'm guessing your Mill often acts erratically or treats you badly. Not the asshole. There's nothing irresponsible about leaving 2 teenagers and a 7-year-old with their grandmother for the day. This makes absolutely no sense. Info: why did your son call, and not Mill? Why didn't your Mill know it would take you 2 hours to get home? Why the hell did she block the door? Is your son okay? Not the asshole. Whoever tries to block a mama bear from an injured cub has to be ready to be mauled. What did she think she was protecting the children from? Not the asshole. I'd have done worse than yell at someone physically blocking me from my injured ill son. If I am reading this correctly, your Mill didn't even call you? Your other son did? Was he told to call while Mill handled everything else? And what were the nurses up to during the altercation? I hope your son is okay. Not the asshole. How was she protecting your child that he ended up in the hospital? First off, I am not a parent, but even I can see that you don't gatekeep a child from their actual parents. Second, did she not listen as to how far you had to drive to get to the wedding in the first place? Also, what kind of BS is it to say that you don't care about your child because it took you time to drive back? This isn't the 24th century and we can beam places and back in the blink of an eye. Not the asshole. I would have gotten physical. Not the asshole. She wasn't trying to protect your kids, you weren't a danger to them. She was being a self-righteous asshole to 2 terrified parents who got to the hospital as fast as they safely could. Not the asshole. But I need to give credit to your Mill. Getting between a concerned mother and her kid in a hospital displays a lot of guts. Or stupidity. As the case may be. X200B. Edito, and because I'm reading all the replies here about your age, kudos for raising 3 children in what must not have been easy circumstances. Not the asshole. You are responsible for your children and your kids trust you most. Her getting in the way was interfering and could have caused further distress. You informed them and got back ASAP, so you are an excellent mom. Don't let them tell you otherwise. Not the asshole. Looks like Mill is not a responsible person to leave your children with. She didn't contact you herself, the entire time this was happening? And tried to prevent you from going into the hospital room? No. Not the asshole. You're a better woman than I am because I would have just pushed her before she could even finish her first sentence. Don't waste a mama's time when her kid's in need. Not the asshole. You did everything possible to get to your child. Your Mill didn't even contact you herself if I'm reading this correctly. Not the asshole. Why did your son call you and not your Mill? There's something more going on here. Either way, Mill was being completely irrational and had no right blocking access to your son. Had the hospital been concerned about your kid's care, they would have called the authorities. Note: this was not the time for her to get on her high horse. You needed to see your son and make sure all was okay. Not the asshole. She was the trusted guardian of them. Did she even contact you? Flushed face. I'd love to know her logic of protecting the kids from you though. Because WTF. In an emergency your kid will clearly want you there. Not the asshole. What was she protecting your kids from exactly? They were already in the hospital and receiving whatever care was necessary. It doesn't sound like there was anything to protect them from. If she was just mad that you didn't get there sooner, then tell her to work on inventing a teleportation device instead of wasting time keeping you from your children. Not the asshole. Anybody blocking my path to my child's hospital room would be lucky that all I did was yell. She had to know that you were 2 hours away, so what did she think you should do? Sprout wings and fly? And I see all the comments regarding your age when you had your first 2 kids and fail to see how that is relevant. You're not 14 now and you did what plenty of parents do. You left your kids with, I assume, a responsible adult while you attended a wedding. You weren't out making a drug deal. Not the asshole. She's in the wrong. She wasn't protecting your children, she was trying to prevent you from getting to them. I'm concerned why she thought this was okay behavior, and if there's something more sinister hidden beneath this. Hope everyone is okay. If it's not too personal, is your son okay? Not the asshole. She is honestly lucky that she was bulldozed over after the first time you told her to move. I would strongly reconsider how much you allow her to interact with your kids. Next time, will she schedule a CPS visit to take them to? I did see in another comment that you had a rocky youth, which is largely irrelevant. I would be concerned with what else she is saying and who she is saying it to. That was some psycho grandma stuff right there. Not the asshole. So her argument was that she was protecting the kids by preventing their parents from accessing their hospital room. To protect them from you? Or to isolate them from you so that you don't find out what happened while they were in her care? Frankly, her behavior during an emergency to isolate and try to limit the parents' access to the children is disturbing and completely out of line. I would never have her look after your kids again if that is how she reacts. You're TGE parents with legal rights, not her. Does the family understand the person she was trying to protect your son from was you and your husband? Not the asshole. I'd have yelled at her, "Get the fuck out of my way." But I might be an R2. Not the asshole. And she's lucky that Mama Bear just roared rather than knocking the head off the woman standing between Mama Bear and her cub. Not the asshole. She blocked your child's hospital room? No more unattended visits with her. Not the asshole. She was babysitting so she knew where you were. And didn't bother to call you, even if she had asked your eldest to call. She should have kept you updated once at the hospital. And it sounds like she didn't. Not the asshole. I too would like to know precisely what she was protecting your kids from. Not the asshole. It's likely that the rest of your husband's family didn't hear the true story. They heard the victim's sob story of how badly she was hurt by the incident. I might have misunderstood. 28 and 29-year-old of 15-year-old? Not trying to be rude. Not the asshole. You were in the right and she should never be left alone with your children ever again, as well as a long period of no contact. Personally, I would have physically moved her from in front of the door, which is something your husband should have done anyway. Not the asshole. Yay, keep me from my kid that is in the hospital, and it would not be verbal, it would be physical. This is ridiculous. First, I hope your son is okay. You not the asshole. Mill total R. What kind of power trip was you Mill on when not letting you into your own son's room? The event happened on her watch and she didn't call you, your son did. And it sounds like she did call you with updates during your 2-hour drive to get there. Lastly, you have every right to go to a wedding 2 hours away and leave your kids with caregivers. Don't blame or beat yourself up. Not the asshole. WTF did she expect you to do to get there quicker? Timed machine? Teleport? Drive 100 and potentially kill yourselves? Does family know the real story? Or just Hermie-centric version? Not the asshole. Fuck her, you're his mom. Am I the asshole? For telling my affair partner to take me to court if she wants child support. I did not know she was married. When she got pregnant she broke it off with me and ghosted me. I'm not on the birth certificate. Her husband is. I didn't even know she had a kid. Her husband did a 23andMe for the kid as a school project and found out he wasn't related to the kid. They are getting divorced. They had a prenup, so she is screwed. She got a hold of me and says she wants child support. I told her to take me to court. I honestly don't even know if the kid is mine. She found my parents and told them lies that they chose to believe because they want a grandkid. They called me irresponsible and said they are ashamed of me. They will not listen to my side, but I think I'm in the clear here. Not the asshole. Let her take you to court and do things legally. You don't even know if this child is yours. And buy some condoms. Not the asshole. If she wants child support from you, then she and her ex-husband need to do the legal work to have him removed from birth certificate, declared no longer the father, lose any custody he has, you do a court-ordered paternity test, and then be added to birth certificate. Not the asshole. I feel sorry for the child, but 12 years later? Go get 30 minutes of counsel from an attorney in your state to see what the laws entail. When I was 12, I tried to connect to my bio dad, but it was awkward. Also, the child knows the other man as her real father. This is so messed up. The woman eater. Prenups can't screw kids out of child support from their legal fathers, in this case her ex-husband. Even if she gets no alimony or assets from her ex, he'll have to pay her child support. Is she trying to double dip? Info: why didn't you ask for a DNA paternity test? How did she find your parents? Was it also via 23andMe, or if so you don't have a brother? Guess what? Not the asshole. You didn't seem to have any knowledge of this situation until now. If you can afford it, I would contact a lawyer, explain the situation, and see what your options are. See ya. Everyone online is an armchair professional, but talking to someone who does this for a living, with specific knowledge of your state's country's laws, that would be helpful for you and possibly provide some peace of mind. They could also provide some insight if someone else is on the birth certificate, how that could make you liable, not responsible, for the child. Not the asshole. She's a real pip, that one. But on the support claim, will be hard for her to come after you if her husband claimed the child and signed the birth certificate. In most jurisdictions, that alone has him on the hook for support until the child is 18. And no prenup will absolve him either of child support. She's likely entitled to child support from her husband, if he was on the birth certificate. Case law on this is centuries old. Anyone married to a woman who gives birth to a child is legally presumed to be the father and must support it, no matter what happened in reality. It's a lot older than DNA testing. Not the asshole. I feel like the fact this child is 12 should be in the post, as this is no fresh egg, which some comments read as though they're assuming. Money-wise, you should not be legally responsible for a child that you didn't know existed for over a decade. That's absurd thinking on the mom's behalf. For the kid's sake, I hope you're open to some form of relationship with them in the future if you're in fact bio dad. This poor child has had her life turned upside down. Her mum is TA. Imagine going through this at 12 or any age, finding out the man you raised and loved you and you know as your father, is not. On top of that, he is now gone. Not the asshole. Everyone that goes through this should for sure make the other person prove their allegations. For all you know, she was sleeping with a third person at the time. I wouldn't give her a dime until it is 100% proven to be my child. She's a proven liar and cheater. She deserves zero benefit of the doubt. You should post in our legal advice. Not the asshole. Her ex-husband is the legal father and he will have to pay child support. You can get a DNA test to see if the kid is yours. It's likely that she was sleeping with multiple people. Not the asshole. Everything needs to go through the courts. You're not on the BC, so legally you're in the clear. Not the asshole. That distinction belongs to the kid's mum. Her soon-to-be ex is in the clear too. I hope he does not have to pay child support. Op states they are getting a divorce and she says she wants child support. I've been wondering about the man who has been her dad all these years. We don't hear any indication that he wants to relinquish his parental rights to his child, regardless of what the legal system might allow. I hope most of us would consider this to be our child, even if not related by blood, as if we had adopted her. I would at least require a paternity test. Not the asshole, and you might want to talk to a lawyer. Honestly, karma for her. I feel for the child. Not the asshole she lied, ghosted, and how pulling BS with your parents. Info: what lies did she tell your parents? Not the asshole. Your parents suck. I'd have her take you to court and have a DNA test. Will the legal father really abandon the daughter after 12 years and allow a stranger to take his place? Edit to add judgment: not the asshole. Tell your parents they are Am I the asshole? For shutting down a girl's attempt to diagnose me with an eating disorder? I lost my left leg when I was very young from a hospital-acquired infection. I have a prosthetic leg which I use for walking and another one for running and exercise. When I was on my parents' health insurance growing up, I got refitted regularly as I grew up. Now I'm too old to be on my parents' insurance, and while my company's insurance is considered very good, getting a new leg or getting adjustments for body weight changes are still expensive. I expect to be paying a fortune if I get pregnant. So I try my best to stay the same weight, and if I gain some weight I can immediately feel it becoming less comfortable to walk. Anyway, a friend's GF and I were talking and she began remarking on how I'm not eating much. We were out to dinner and I just was having a soup and salad and everyone else was having baby back ribs. I'd stolen a few of my BF's plate, but generally I was trying to eat light. I said I was trying to lose a few pounds and she immediately assured me I was beautiful the way I was and I didn't need to lose weight. I told her I know I am, but losing weight helps with my mobility. She began diagnosing me with an eating disorder, saying I must have a delusion I was very heavy and having issues walking. I was pissed and she sounded super condescending and blurted out she had no business talking down to me about my weight, even if it was to tell me not to change it. The other people overheard and the GF got really embarrassed and left with my friend soon after. My BF thinks I should have explained why I need to keep my weight the same, but I don't think I should have to pull out my disability to get her to shut up. With long loose pants it's often hard to tell I have a prosthetic leg. I don't know if she knew, but I didn't feel like justifying why my weight needed to stay the same. But am I the asshole for shutting down her attempts to diagnose me with an eating disorder? Not the asshole. Bringing up a potential eating disorder in casual dinner conversation is rude as hell and she should be embarrassed about it. Not the asshole. She's not qualified to diagnose you, and people who do can cause serious damage. It's none of her business either way. It's also shallow of her to take your health concerns and make it about being beautiful. Not the asshole. But you missed a great opportunity to say, "Are you kidding? I put away food so fast they say I must have a hollow leg," followed by the big reveal. Not the asshole. You don't have to have an eating disorder to try to maintain weight. You mentioned mobility. I assume she didn't ask anything further about that, but mobility can actually cover huge amount of issues, not just prosthetics. Maybe you had an injured knee or back and keeping the weight helps you manage the issue. I think you were in your right to shut her down. If you think a basically stranger has an eating disorder, for fuck's sake do not comment on their body, food, or try to diagnose them. It's kind of an extremely sensitive, personal, and embarrassing topic. Eating out with an Ed is hard enough as it is. Please don't make the internal screaming harder to ignore by reminding me it's there. That's assuming big ask that you're actually right and not that the anti-science side of body positivity just rotted your brain. Not the asshole, and she was very insensitive. Her remarks could have triggered or shamed someone who was in recovery from an ED. Not the asshole. Your medical history is none of her business, and you were perfectly civil until she kept pushing it. Clear. Not the asshole. It was simply none of her business what you ate or how much. She overstepped, and if she was embarrassed, she did it to herself. Not the asshole. You don't have to explain yourself or apologize to anyone. Nada. You don't need to explain your medical history. She was in no place to say anything. She didn't know you and assumed you had an eating disorder. Eating
Am I the asshole for telling my brother I blame him and his wife for their daughter's actions? My brother has 2 kids. His son Jory is 15 and his daughter Emily is 7. Jory's mom died weeks after Emily was born. My brother and Jory's mom were long since divorced and he primarily lived with her until her death. Jory went through a lot in a very short period of time. Jory's maternal family are a very present part of Jory's life. This was something my brother and his wife disapproved of but allowed because my parents and I told them it was not about them or Emily but about Jory and how he lost his mom. Their attitude did not change and it did influence Emily somewhat. I believe. She adores Jory and is very jealous that he goes away for hours and sometimes overnight to be with his family. She's jealous that he's not someone who keeps photos but has one of his mom in his room, in a special frame. Mostly she's a little girl who wants her older half-brother's attention. She thinks he's the greatest person in the world. But sometimes I feel like she hears too much of what her parents think. 2 months ago there was an incident at my brother's house. Jory didn't want to spend time with Emily and was reading a letter his mom wrote to him before she died. Emily pushed and was told to get out of his room. She was angry and from what I can piece together my brother and his wife did not talk her down. When Jory left the room Emily went inside and broke the frame and tore up the photo of Jory's mom. Jory walked in as she was still tearing the photo up. Jory yelled at Emily and Emily cried and said was mad and wanted him to spend time with her but he picked a letter over her. My brother walks in and tells Jory to stop yelling at his sister and goes to console Emily. Both my brother and his wife decide it's not a big issue. Jory disagrees and they argue. Emily went back to Jory's room later and says she's sorry but Jory ignores her and she cried and said she just wanted him to not love his mom more. He told her he didn't love her and would always love his mom more and he would never forgive her for what she did. That he did not want her as his sister and she needed to get out of his room and not speak to him again. Things got intense between my brother and Jory left and went to stay with his maternal grandparents. My brother tried to stop him but his wife said she didn't want Jory around Emily if he was going to be so hateful. Jory is still with his grandparents. My brother thought Jory would have seen sense and calmed down. I said he couldn't expect Jory to see it as a minor issue. My brother was like I couldn't seriously be blaming a 7-year-old for acting out the way she did. I said no. I blamed him and his wife. That they are the parents and handled it all badly and likely fed into Emily's jealousy with their attitude that Jory shouldn't see his family. I said I hold them accountable for that and then for acting like Jory had no right to be mad. My brother believes I'm the one who is wrong and being an ass to him and his wife. Am I the asshole? Not the asshole. Destroying other people's personal stuff is not okay and a teachable lesson Emily should have learned right there and then. It's obvious Emily is getting away with bad behavior because it's their biological child. Jory needs to stay with his maternal grandparents where he and his belongings are respected. Living with your brother, his father, will not improve until your brother's attitude changes, and it does not sound like it will. Sound like you've been very supportive of Jory. Not the asshole. Not the asshole. I feel really angry for Jory. His stepmother has zero empathy and both his parents are enabling some bloody awful behavior from Emily. You told them straight and that was the right thing to do. Not the asshole. Emily certainly can be blamed for what she did. She may be 7 but she knew exactly what she was doing. Emily should have been punished. If his maternal grandparents are willing to have him, Jory should stay with them permanently. Jory has an evil stepmother and a useless father. Evil stepmother? Inconsiderate father? Thank God at least he has his grandparents to lean on. Because the father doesn't really seem he can see anything beyond his new wife, and the only hateful person here is your brother and his wife. Not the asshole. Forget the fact that she destroyed a precious item of his. Forget the fact they have different moms. What 15-year-old boy wants to spend all of his time with his 7-year-old sister? Very few. Not the asshole. Your brother and his wife are terrible at blending families. And this is one of the consequences of that. Your brother is going to lose contact with his son. And only he is to blame. Not the asshole. Anyone that's not Team Jory here is an Yes. Emily is a child, but she needed some real consequences and explanations in this situation. Speaking of AHs, brother and wife need to pull their heads out of each other's. Your brother and his wife are idiots. Not the asshole. You were spot on. X200B. Edit to add. Your Sil must be happy. Her stepson has gone away. Not the asshole. And Jory needs to stay with his maternal family. Your brother and Sil are the worst kind of parents. Just trying to erase his mother? They literally destroyed Emily and Jory's relationship and their own with him. More than likely, he won't speak to Emily until she's an adult unless he is forced. And your brother NC when he's 18. Tell your bro congrats on being a shit father. Not the asshole. Poor Jory. Yellow heart, yellow heart, yellow heart. Not the asshole. Poor Jory. Hope he can stay with his grandparents until he can be on his own. Your brother and Sil suck. They may have influenced Emily, but a 7-year-old knows when they do bad things. My son is 5 and knows when he screwed up. Not the asshole. My mom passed away 8 years ago and I'm an adult. If anyone ripped my mom's picture apart, I would go nuclear. It's a pain and trauma that never gets better. You learn how to manage it, but the pain is still there. What Emily did was cruel, but your brother and his wife's response puts them into villain territory. Joey will never I would be surprised if he forgave any of them. Sounds like your brother wanted to tear it up too and his daughter beat him to it. The bottom line is they don't respect Jory or anything about or for him. Jory needs to permanently get out of that situation before something worse happens. Not the asshole at all. Your brother needed to hear the truth from another adult, and sticking up for your nephew was the right thing. It sounds like your Sil and brother not wanting Jory to see his mother's family is just being jealous and toxic. You should see Jory and make sure you stay in his life. Regardless or where he lives. Can clearly tell who the favored child is. Your brother and his wife are horrendous. They've enables Emily's behavior and now shocked when Jory wants nothing to do with them. Hope Jory is able to heal from this. Some extended time apart from them is probably for the best. If your brother and his wife don't adjust their behavior, they are going to lose a child. In a few years Jory will be old enough to make his own life and decisions, and I wouldn't be surprised if he chooses to cut them all out of his life. Not the asshole. Any professional grief counselor would tell your terrible brother that he and his terrible wife are wrong, cruel, and damaging both children. What heartless people. And your brother and his wife are being remarkably cruel to Jory. If Jory isn't already, perhaps he sounds see an individual counselor. And the family should have some counseling. Not the asshole. Your brother is very wrong and has lost his relationship with Jory. That kid will not be back. Even if the court forces his body, he is emotionally gone. Continue to be there for Jory.
Am I the asshole? For giving my son non-vegan food behind my wife's back. I am, and my wife is 33F. We have been married for 8 years and have a 12-year son together. About 6 years ago, my wife decided to go vegan. She was sent the documentary Dominion by a vegan friend of hers and ever since has said non-vegan food is revolting and refuses to eat it. After a long conversation I agreed to go vegetarian and be vegan in the house and around her, which she was happy with. She also decided our son should be vegan, which after seeing a dietitian I also agreed with. Things have been fine with this arrangement until a few months ago when I began finding wrappers from non-vegan candy and even burgers from McDonald's in my son's school bag which he had been buying with chore money. I had a conversation with my son and he confessed he felt lonely and excluded eating vegan around his friends and that they always had much better candy than he did and it wasn't fair. I decided I didn't want him spending his pocket money on snacks and throwing out the vegan snacks we actually brought him instead of buying games etc. It made no sense, but I also know the way my wife feels about non-vegan products. So, I began buying my son what he wanted on our way to football practice instead. Long story short, my wife recently found out what has been going on and completely flipped out. She called me an animal abuse enabler and a few other names and said I was corrupting our son. Now she is not speaking to me. Our son panicked and told her I had bought the snacks for him and he didn't know they weren't vegan. I don't blame him for that, he just doesn't want to be in trouble with mom. Am I the asshole here? Not the asshole. I think my answer, at this point, would be, our son is old enough to decide what he wants to eat and what his dietary preferences are. If we put him into a situation where he feels he has to hide things from us, that's on us. If your wife is confronting him about this in any kind of intimidating way or trying to make him feel guilty with the same phrases she's using with you, I would prioritize your son and his needs and well-being. Shit like this can cause a lot of problems. As a vegan, not the asshole. We humans are designed to eat meat. It's a perfectly normal thing for our bodies to do. In fact, I'm the abnormal one not eating meat. I'm old enough to have made that choice and I'm happy your son shouldn't have it forced upon him at such a young age, when building bonds is so important. His body, his choice and you're doing nothing wrong supporting him. Not the asshole. Not the asshole. Going vegan is a choice. She did not give you or your son a choice about your dietary preferences. Of course your kid will go behind her back. I would too. It's really not her decision. I'm surprised you aren't sneaking off with your son for burgers. Not the asshole, but you need to push back. Your wife doesn't get to decide that the whole family has to be vegan. Your son is
Am I the asshole for abandoning my children? I have 2 children and almost 3 YO and almost 1 YO. I am planning on joining the military after my youngest is weaned. This has been the plan since before my husband and I got married. My husband is also in the military and our plan is to transfer both of our GI Bills to our kids. So they'll be set up when the time comes for them to go to college. However, joining the military will require me to leave for 8 weeks for basic training, and I have been getting a lot of criticism from friends and family saying that I am abandoning my children and that I am going to scar them by leaving for that amount of time. I am having a really hard time with this because I just want what's best for them, and since I haven't worked in 3 years, I see this as being the best way to set all of us up in the long term. But I feel awful about leaving my children. So am I the asshole? Info: our children will be staying with my husband, and he is non-deployable. My tech school is at the base where we are currently stationed, so I would be back after basic. Both my husband and I will be in non-combat roles. It will be roughly a year from now, so our kids will be 2Y and 4Y when I leave. More info: the reason this has to happen more or less now is because we will only be at this base for 3 or 4 years. So waiting until my youngest is older would extend the amount of time I'm away from them. You are going to be a dual military family. That is exceptionally rough. You have not said anything about branch, schools, or deployments. There is a lot of missing information. I'm not familiar with how military families work. What's next after basic training? Could your husband be deployed at the same time as you ever? If so, what's the plan? When I was a small child, my dad used to regularly go away on ships trials. He was responsible for all the pipework on board, and apparently I cried an ocean. When he wrote to my mum, he always included drawings for me of the ship with and pictures of him walking away from the ship. Then a train, and then a drawing of a house and a lady and a little girl, so I knew he was coming home. These situations can be made to work, but you have effort. I am almost 69 and I still have many of these drawings, and they still let me know how much he thought and cared. You have 21 yo. Why have 2 kids while the plan all along was to join the military? How you and your military husband will deal with the kids while deployed? Could happen THST both of you will be out at the same time? If so, who's gonna watch the kids? Who's gonna watch the kids while you are at this training? Honestly, you are not an asshole for following your dreams. You and your husband are an asshole for bringing 2 kids at this world in this conditions. This has been the plan since before my husband and I got married. I mean, why have children if you never actually plan to be there for them anyway? Is this really your only solution? A private's wages are minimum wage. Surely you can get a minimum wage job without leaving your very young children with IDK who for months at a time. Please do not take advice from Reddit on a child's development. Do the research. You will see just how devastating the impacts of leaving your children at this age can be. Edited to add: when I commented this, there was only one other comment that didn't say something along the lines of "You do you, girl. Your kid will be fine." Glad to see the comment with the most up votes is by a professional who has done the research. I don't know. This sounds like you need to speak to a professional. Just because of who I am, I work full time, and so does my husband, so our babies go to daycare. I wouldn't do it. Sometimes we make some sacrifices for a better life in the future, and that's great. But we always need to weigh out the pros, cons, and cost: emotional, mental, physical. 21. With a 3-year-old. Joining the military? I guess it's normal in the USA. Your own brain is still developing, and you're making these decisions. I don't think you're an and if the father is with them they probably wouldn't feel the abandonment. I'd listen to the professional up there in the comments, but I don't know. It all seems so weird to me. Like, extreme. You say you want what's best for them, while planning for the future is noble. They need you now. What's best for them is you. Physically present during their formative years. The military can wait. Honestly, this isn't popular at all, but I agree with the expert's opinion at the top. Only because I'm a nanny and have worked with children who have been negatively affected by this situation. If you can put it off, it would be a lot better. Or follow the advice of the expert. Info: why did you have 2 kids before the age of 21 if you always planned on joining the military? Is your only reason for joining the military so that your children will be set up when the time comes to go to college? What if your kids don't want to go to college? Or get academic or sports scholarships? Or end up joining the military themselves? I think the risk of abandonment issues now does not outweigh the potential benefit of college security in 17 years. Not the asshole, but maybe put some more thought into it. IDK: try not having kids when you don't even have your life together. Lol. Almost 8 weeks? You're the asshole. Simple as. You're the asshole. The first 5 years old a kid's life are the most important in terms of brain development. Don't give them mental issues for life for the sake of a college fund. They may not even go to college. You're the asshole. Anyone who would have a family and then join the military are essentially abandoning their children. If you want to join the military, do that first and then have kids when you get out. No, you're not the asshole. Your husband is a parent too. They won't be alone and you'll be back. If you knew you were going to have kids at such a young age and then leave, you didn't really think this through. I support working moms, but both of you in the army leaves no primary caregiver. You are a mom first. Try finding something else that won't require you joining the army. Or ask your partner to. You're the asshole. Military life is horrendous for children. You know those videos in which children are crying when they see their military parents come back? Those aren't sweet. Those aren't cute. The children are traumatized. There is pain on their faces. Unless there is absolutely no way to feed your children without being in the military, get a local job. Worry about college later. Be there for your kids now. You're the asshole. There's a reason most military brats have major issues. Not the asshole. I have never once heard a father be criticized for going on deployment and leaving the kids with their mother. And for far longer than 8 weeks. What the hell is the double standard? You're the asshole. You were pregnant at 17-18 and then again at 20. You've realized your husband actually has a life and you're stuck being a mom. Running away to the military gives you an out. Minus the shame of being a bad mother. Abandoning your children isn't the answer. Going back to school or learning a skill so you can become employable is. You too deserve to have a life that is fulfilling and you can have a purpose without abandoning your children. You're a selfish, immature excuse for a mother and your children deserve better. You're the asshole. These kids are babies and you are already going to irreparably damage them. These poor kids never stood a chance. You're the asshole for joining an imperialist murder machine and then again for leaving children behind to do so. Plenty of other career paths out there that don't involve being an imperialist dog. Just because you had a plan and are acting on that plan doesn't make you the good person. It make you worse because you specifically make a ridiculous plan and are digging your heels into it. YTA. Am I the asshole for leaving my own wedding early? So I and my husband just got married a week ago. We were having a good wedding until the speeches happened. Now I thought it was common sense to not do this. But during the best man's speech he decided to propose to his girlfriend. She said yes and all hell broke loose. From that point on, no one paid attention to me or my husband nor paid attention to the event times. People starting eating early. The speeches were cut short after he proposed. On top of that he got the DJ to play him and his girlfriend their song, which incited a whole bunch of couples to do the same. For about 3 hours it was just couples running to the DJ to play their song and hogging the dance floor. When me and my husband finally got a chance to dance, people were too exhausted and didn't pay attention. They instead went to eat. After several hours of this, I told my husband I didn't really want to be here anymore. And he agreed. We ended up leaving. The only person we said goodbye to was our parents. Nobody even noticed we had left. Now here's the problem. 3 days after the wedding, a cousin of mine had asked me when did I leave my wedding. As she never got to say goodbye, I told her we left early because nobody was paying attention nor cared enough to. She said okay and hanged up. Now we've been getting calls from all our relatives telling us we're immature and need to lighten up. That we should be happy our wedding made people this romantic. So am I the asshole? Not the asshole. Send the best man a bill for half the cost of his engagement party. Not the asshole. And when the best man gets married, I hope you and your husband steal that moment to tell the audience how great your marriage is. Wait, they have delayed anger that you left early because sure as shit they didn't notice on the night. Yeah, that's a hell no from me. Not the asshole. I would fuck up that guy who derailed your wedding. All of the wedding guests ignored you and your husband during your own wedding after the best man proposed, which already is a bad thing right there. Super disrespectful to do that. Then everyone who ignored you too, calling both of you a few days later to say you two are being selfish. Like it seems like those people calling you too selfish don't seem to know the meaning of that word. Not the asshole. Not the asshole. It was incredible rude to propose at another's wedding because this is exactly what happens. Your wedding gets hijacked. They got a free engagement party. Which is terrible. I'm sorry your special day was ruined. Not the asshole. It is quite clear that your wedding is supposed to be about your couple. It's celebrating your love. Not everyone. Proposing to someone at someone else's wedding is odd behavior. Why would you steal the attention of the couple? Plus playing their song. You have every right to be pissed off. I hope you can still celebrate somehow at a smaller occasion. And if I were you, I would tell the dude that it was inappropriate. Congratulations anyway. What kind of wedding DJ doesn't have a list of approved songs or at least knows to check with the people paying them or doesn't listen to you when you say to cut it out? For several hours? I've never heard of such a thing. Hope your makeup small ceremony is lovely. Not the asshole. What a selfish best man. I haven't got a clue why people are this dense. Or what goes on in their tiny minds to suggest this is acceptable. And then to play their goddamn song? Again. Not the asshole at all. You deserve the night you want for your wedding, and if that's making the best of things by you and your husband heading off, then so be it. It's no one else's business. No one gets to tell you how you feel about things. Sorry. You didn't deserve this heart. Not the asshole. Honestly. You stayed too long. Don't take any of that BS from the family members either. Turn it around and make it them giving so few fucks about the bride and groom they didn't notice them leaving. Also make sure not to tip the DJ if you haven't paid them yet. The married couple shouldn't have to fight to get their song into the rotation. Finally, as an evil suggestion that would probably put you in the category. What do you think about getting pregnant in time to make the announcement at the best man's wedding? Never mind that last bit. Didn't notice the M&M in the OP. An adoption announcement just wouldn't be the same. Is the best man such a tight ass he hijacked your wedding to have his engagement party? Hell no. Not the asshole. I'd be fuming. Look of triumph. This is copypasta of a post from earlier this week. In Ta, they all behaved really badly towards you both. Your best man proposing to his GF at your wedding, which is supposed to be a celebration of you and your partner, without asking your permission, is in extremely poor taste. He could have chosen any other time place to propose, but chose to do it at your wedding? Huge. Not the asshole. Not the asshole. Send your best man an invoice for 50 of the reception costs, including the DJ and any other services he used. He planned this so he can now pay for his share of the venue, etc. If he refuses to pay for it, sue him. He ruined your wedding reception. Not the asshole. It was your day. In hindsight, it may feel different. That your moment made others feel romantic and that you and your husband snuck away to enjoy each other, the people you cared most about, in the room. But in the moment and aftermath, it definitely must hurt seeing how few respected your day plans and noticed you leaving, then gaslighting you about leaving? Yeah. Not the asshole. Not the asshole. You and your husband both wanted to leave. Your cousin called you 3 days after. It took longer for other relatives to ask about what happened. Your best man should have asked about proposing. Not the asshole. I'm sorry that happened to you. You might have gone and had a talk with the DJ. Told him to stick with whatever the plan was for the music instead of taking requests. And announced to the guests that the wedding was returning to schedule. But I can understand why that would feel awkward. And doesn't really do away with the hurt of being ignored at your own wedding. Nope. Not at all. Someone said send him half the bill. I agree. Send him the bill. Op. Definitely not the asshole. The best man is, though, for sure. He should be paying for half of all your expenses. Your guests? They forgot who this day was for. They ignored all of your planned out activities, other speeches, first dance, cutting cake, etc. And then because they ignored the bride and groom, didn't notice when you left? Tacky of them. They know it too. That's why they are all defensive and blaming you. I'm sorry you two didn't have the day you deserved. I hope the ceremony you are planning is really special. You should have gotten it under control after the proposal and their one dance. You should have told DJ to follow schedule and no to other couple who tried to hijack the wedding. Not the asshole. Another fine reason we're eloping. I'm so sorry. If it was just the stupid proposal and that was the end of it, then I'd say you were being a little dramatic, but the whole reception for your nuptials turned into a group couples celebration, and the fact that they were there to celebrate you and your husband was completely forgotten by everyone. I'd have left too. I actually walked around to my family and friends who brought ones and made sure they understood it was my wife's stage tonight. Found out later a buddy had brought a ring if there had been an opportunity. Bullet dodged, so definitely not the asshole on your part. Not the asshole. I'm not interested in being lectured about how I should feel about my wedding. Definitely not the asshole. So much planning and spending to celebrate you and your partner's relationship, and not only does your best man hijack it, but everyone else too by thinking it's okay? That sucks. I am so sorry you two had to experience that. Not the asshole. When they get married, announce you're pregnant even if not. You know what? Rude and childish. Being a cheap asshole and use someone else's party and day to propose.